Chapter 1. The Pale Awakening. The war had shaped him, but it had not broken him. Not truly. Not yet. 6 years had passed since Silvern stood upon the battlefield, his body torn, his breath stolen, his victory soaked in the blood of the axemen who had nearly ended him. He did not remember dying. He did not remember surviving. But he remembered what came after. What lingered. What grew inside him. What whispered in his veins every time he stepped forward. Now, he was not merely a warrior. Not merely a conqueror. He was something else. The fortress stood at the edge of the fallen kingdom, its stone eaten by time, its halls empty save for the ghosts of battles long since forgotten. Silvern walked through the ruins, his boots pressing into dust that had not been disturbed in centuries. The sky stretched above him, gray, hollow, starless. It had been this way for years. The world was growing tired. But Silvern was not. He had learned in the years since the axeman's fall that his body did not fail, not the way it should. Wounds closed without effort. Blood loss did not bring weakness. Fatigue was a stranger to him. He did not feel the weight of existence as others did. He was something different, something becoming. And tonight, he would take the next step into that transformation. A whisper curled at the edge of his mind. A presence. Not human. Not mortal. Not yet his. His first thrall waited. Silvern descended into the ruins, into the chambers where the last remnants of the fallen kingdom had been buried. He had chosen this place deliberately, where the bones of kings lay, where the echoes of history remained. The man before him was not noble, not powerful, not chosen for his strength, but for something else, for his willingness, for his belief. Silvern reached forward, his fingers pressing against the man's forehead. The ritual was untested, the process unknown, but the hunger inside him knew. The instincts, deep, primal, ancient, new. And so, Silvern spoke. Not loudly, not forcefully, but with finality. You are mine. The air shifted. The man did not scream. He did not protest. He only breathed. And as he exhaled, something changed. His body stiffened. His pulse slowed. His eyes, once dull, once human, flashed silver for just a breath, for just a moment. Then, nothing. Then, everything. Silvern stepped back. The man knelt. The first Pale Lord had been born. Chapter 2. The First Thrall. The man knelt before Silvern, his breath steady, his body still. But something inside him had changed. Not visible, not immediate, but unmistakable. Silvern could feel it. The thread, the unseen tether now binding them together, thin, fragile, but unbreakable. A single connection woven into his existence, an extension of himself, yet separate. It was unlike anything he had ever known. He stepped forward, studying the man. For 6 years, Silvern had sharpened his understanding of what he was becoming, his endurance, his hunger, his instincts. But this was different. This was creation. Rise. The thrall obeyed. Not with hesitation, not with thought, just certainty. Silvern circled him, testing. There was no resistance, no doubt. The man did not tremble, did not ask, did not waver. His mind remained intact. His eyes still carried memory, still bore recognition. Yet something was missing. The weight of humanity. Not erased, not stolen, diminished. "Do you understand?" Silvern asked, though he already knew the answer.
I do.
"Do you feel it?" A pause.
I feel you.
The words pressed against the air, not eerie, not hollow, but absolute. Silvern exhaled. He did not need to breathe, yet he still did. Old habits, human remnants. Perhaps they would fade one day. He reached forward, pressing a hand against the thrall's shoulder. The bond pulsed, not with heat, not with life, but with something colder. "You are the first." And as the words settled, as the moment stretched into something tangible, Silvern knew this was only the beginning. The Pale Lords would rise. Chapter 3. The Gathering Storm. The night stretched thin across the ruins, pressing silence into the spaces where history had already crumbled. Silvern stood at the threshold of what had once been a kingdom. Not by conquest, not by war, but by time alone. And time had no mercy. The first thrall had bound himself without protest, without resistance, without hesitation. Silvern felt the thread between them, pulsing faintly like a tether woven from something older than blood. But one was not enough. One did not make a legion. One did not make a legacy. He had learned in the years since the Axeman's fall that survival alone did not grant power. Presence did. Influence did. And already, those who lingered at the edges of history, those who had watched kingdoms decay, had begun to hear his name. They were coming. Not soldiers, not kings. Something else. A flicker of motion at the edge of the ruins. Silvern turned. The first had arrived. A woman, sharp-eyed, her skin streaked with soot and age, but her presence unnaturally steady. She did not kneel, not yet, but she did not falter either.
"You are him."
Not a question, not a challenge, a statement. Silvern studied her, not with curiosity but with understanding. She had heard the whispers, she had followed them, and now she had come to see for herself.
"You are pale," she continued, "but you are not dead."
Silvern did not answer immediately. He stepped forward instead, watching the way she held her breath, not in fear but in expectation. "You seek to serve." She exhaled, slow, steady.
"I seek to know."
Silvern's fingers curled at his side. "Then step forward." She did. The second bond was forged. And as the days stretched forward, as more arrived, as the foundations of the Pale Lords took root in the ruins of forgotten kingdoms, Silvern felt it. His soul thinning, splintering, expanding. He was no longer merely a man. He was becoming something far greater. Chapter 4. The stitched-mouthed woman. The whispers came first. Not from soldiers, not from kings, not from those who bent their knees before Silvern and called him Lord. From the ruins, from the dust, from places older than history, where the world itself had forgotten the name of the thing it had once feared. She had been waiting, not for him, not for fate, just waiting, because she had no choice. Silvern stood at the entrance of the forgotten temple, the wind pressing against stone that had long since crumbled. The moon stretched thin above him. The pale lords had spoken of her. A woman bound to silence, her mouth stitched shut, her presence lingering between myth and nightmare. But myths did not survive centuries, and nightmares did not stay hidden forever. He stepped forward into the temple's heart. Dust curled beneath his boots, the air thick with age, the scent of forgotten prayers clinging to the stone. Then, movement. Not footsteps, not breath. Something deeper. Something woven into the fabric of the silence itself.
You are not meant to be here.
Not spoken, not heard, felt. Silvern did not flinch. He had come for her, and he would not leave without her. The chamber stretched before him, shadows pooling at the edges, pressing against the fractured walls. And there she stood, bound, silent, waiting. The stitches held her mouth shut, not crude, not cruel, but deliberate. The work of something greater, something careful, something that had ensured she would never speak again. Because her words were dangerous. Because her voice had once changed things. Step forward, Silvern said, his tone steady, his presence unyielding. She did not move. You have been waiting. A pause. And then her eyes. Not gold, not silver, not shadow, but knowing. She understood what he was. She understood what he would become. And she knew, better than he did, that he would never truly control her. But Silvern did not need control. He needed silence. You will come with me, he said. Not an offer, not a command, a truth. The silence stretched between them. Then slowly, she stepped forward. And as she did, the temple trembled. Not from ruin, not from decay, but from something older, something that had just begun to stir. Refined. Chapter 5. The Binding. She did not kneel, not like the thralls, not like the pale lords who had come before her, bending in reverence, offering their loyalty without question. She stood, unbound, her presence unwavering, her gaze sharp beneath the weight of stitches that ensured she would never speak again. Silvern felt a resistance, not open defiance, not rebellion, but the quiet, patient refusal to bow. She was bound by silence, but not by him. Not yet. You will stay. Not a command, not a plea, a fact. She did not flinch, but something shifted in the air, an almost imperceptible pressure, a force that did not belong to him, yet did not belong to her either. You understand what I am. She did not nod, did not confirm. But in her eyes, the sharp, deliberate gleam of someone who knows, Silvern saw the truth. She knew exactly what he was. She knew what he was becoming, and she knew, better than he did, that he could never truly control her. Step forward. She did, not hesitantly, not fearfully, just deliberately. Silvern reached out, fingers pressing against her temple, and the air trembled, not in sound, not in movement, but in something older. She did not recoil. She did not yield. But something changed. A thread, thin, fragile, stretching between them unseen but felt. Not control, not obedience, just recognition. Silvern pulled back, studying her again. She was not a thrall. She would never be. Her silence was his shield. Her presence was his warning, and the binding had begun. Chapter 6. The Pale Lord's Oath. The ruins were no longer empty. Once they had been hollow corridors, whispers of kingdoms lost to time, echoes of battles that had long since faded into dust. Now they held breath, motion, loyalty. The Pale Lords had gathered, not soldiers, not conquerors, but something else. Silvern stood at the heart of the old fortress, watching as his thralls took their places, not kneeling, not groveling, but standing with a certainty that could not be mistaken for mere obedience. They were bound to him, not by words, not by mere allegiance, by existence itself. His soul stretched thin across them, woven through flesh, buried beneath breath and blood. Each one an extension, each one a barrier, each one ensuring he could not die. Not yet, not as long as they remained. They would serve, they would endure, and tonight they would swear themselves to something greater than war. Silvern lifted his gaze, his voice steady as he spoke, not loudly, not as a ruler, but as something beyond the weight of a single man. You are mine. The words settled, pressing into the air like a force, like something absolute. No hesitation, no protest, only acceptance. The Pale Lords did not bow, but they did not need to. The oath had been spoken, and from this moment forward, Silvern was no longer alone. Chapter 7. The Unseen War. Power does not rise without consequence. And Silvern was no longer merely a warrior, no longer merely a name spoken in whispered reverence. He was something else now, something more than mortal, something beyond legend. And they had noticed. Not kings, not warlords, not soldiers seeking conquest. Something older, something watching, something waiting. The Pale Lords had grown, expanding beyond ruins, moving through the shattered remnants of kingdoms long since lost. They did not kneel to monarchs. They did not swear fealty to dying empires. They were loyal only to him. But loyalty was not enough. Silvern had felt it first. Not in battle, not in blood, but in the silence that pressed against his throne at night. A weight, a presence, something unnatural, lingering at the edges of his existence, just beyond the reach of his sight. A force that did not move against him openly. A force that did not wield steel. A force that understood that Silvern could not be killed. Not yet. So it worked in the dark. The first sign came when one of the Pale Lords did not return. Not slain, not taken, vanished. Silvern stood at the heart of his keep, his fingers pressing against the cold stone, his breath steady as he considered what it meant. The world was changing, and war, his war, was no longer fought with blades alone. It had become something else, something unseen. Chapter 8. The Vanished Lord. A name erased. A presence lost. Silvern stood at the threshold of the Pale Lord's sanctuary, his fingers pressing against the cold stone, his breath steady. He had sent them out, his thralls, his warriors, his extensions of self, and they had always returned. But tonight, one did not. No body, no blood, no sign of battle, just absence, and that was worse. Silvern stepped forward, the silence stretching around him as he studied the path beyond the ruins, and the route the lost one had taken. The others remained still, watching him, not in fear, not in uncertainty, but in expectation. Their bond was absolute, their loyalty unshaken. But this was unknown. The stitched-mouthed woman lingered at his side, her presence sharp, her silence weightier than ever. She had felt it too, not just the loss, but the fracture in the air, the gap where something had been severed. Something taken. Silvern exhaled. The world was shifting. The unseen war had begun, and he would find what had been lost. This chapter builds upon the tension of Chapter 7, showing Silvern's response to the first true disappearance of a Pale Lord. He is stepping into a war unlike any he has fought before, one where his enemies do not strike with swords, but with erasure. Does this feel right for the pacing? If so, we can move forward to Chapter 9, the hunt for shadows, where Silvern actively begins his search for the force moving against him. Chapter 9. The Threshold of Fate. The ruins whispered of change. Silvern could feel it. The war moving against him was no longer fought in blood, no longer defined by steel and conquest. His enemies did not march upon his gates, did not send armies to his throne. They worked elsewhere, in shadows, in absence. And that meant they feared him. But fear was not enough to stop them. His steps carried him through the hollow corridors of the fallen kingdom, his fingers tracing the stone worn by centuries. The Pale Lords were watching. The stitched-mouthed woman lingered at his side, her silence weighted by something heavier than ever before. Something was coming. Not an army, not a warlord seeking his throne. A force. He felt it, not in the ruins, not in the breath of his thralls, but somewhere beyond the veil of existence itself. A guardian. Not his. Not yet. But waiting. Silvern exhaled, his eyes narrowing against the empty horizon. The world had already shifted beneath him. The battle for power was no longer simply his own, and soon someone else would enter it.